Welcome back to Hear Me Out Sports, and we're here with the holiday season. So, to kick this one off, we're gonna do some sweet treats from this holiday season, the Christmas season. Some of our favorite things. And then we're gonna move into 8 games. We're breaking it down, trying to tell you guys what's good, what's bad, and what to look out for in these games. Followed by Tom Brady. Should he go into retirement and hang up the jersey? Is he even a GOAT? Is he top three? What are we looking at with Tom Brady? So, without further ado, let's run it. All right, so here we are kicking it off with we are going to do our top 3 sweet treats from the holiday season. So, Kayana, what is your third favorite treat? And then I will share mine.
My third favorite treat is a store-bought candy. It's my only one of my top three that's store-bought candy, and it's Lindor's. So I like the white chocolate ones. I also like the just straight-up milk chocolate with the creamy inside. So I think Lindor's, that's my number three, but it's only up from here. But yeah, Lindor's, absolute fire. So what do you think?
Yeah, so I actually love those two. Those are also on my list, but we'll wait until we get there. But I am going to say overlooked one that people just put on the back burner, one that you either love or hate, but that's almond roca. I think it's delicious, delectable, and you know what? It's just in a great packaging, perfect bite-sized piece, gets you going for the day.
No, almond rokas belong straight in the trash can, man. Like I don't think you could pay me. If I was starving on an island and there was only almond rokas to eat, I'd just die. Like I'd
Oh,
rather
I
die.
would thrive. I would start a
No.
colony and we would thrive. Anyways, moving on to number 2. This is now where I have my Lindor truffles. I'm a big peppermint slash mint type of person, so I kind of lean that way. But listen, any of those truffles are pretty good. I prefer the milk chocolate over the dark chocolate, and I kind of prefer both over white chocolate, unless the white chocolate has cookies and cream. So let's just get that straight.
All right, my number two, fudge. So my wife and I every Christmas now we make a bunch of different kinds of fudge, and the ones we don't like we just don't make the following year. So this year we have 8 different fudges on tap. We have 3 more to make still. So banana fudge, kick that out. That's trash bag. So we're
I
not
could
we're
have
not
told you
making that one
that.
next year. Made
You
that
didn't
this
even need
year.
a taste as that.
Made that this year. Had 2 pieces each. Took the rest to a potluck and threw the rest away. Because we didn't want that crap anymore. So that's bad. But the classic milk chocolate fudge, super good. We also made a really good cookies and cream and a peanut butter kind of Reese's peanut butter cup type fudge.
Those are the
And actually
two
this
best
year,
fudges.
yeah, and this year we also made an eggnog fudge, which is good. It tastes exactly like eggnog in fudge form, so I can't eat too much of it. It's a little bit overpowering, but it is good. But yeah, I think honestly my favorites so far have been the cookies and cream and the milk chocolate fudge. So fudge as a category is my number two for sure of sweet treats.
All right,
But
so round us out. What's your number one?
number one, I'm very specific here. So crinkle cookies, for those of you who know, our listeners here, crinkle cookies, right? They're kind of like a chocolate cookie with white powdered sugar on top. But my wife and I, we take kisses, different types of Hershey's kisses. So some just plain milk chocolate, some like the caramel filled, some the mix of white chocolate, whatever, hugs and all that. And we stick them right in the middle of the crinkle cookies as soon as they get out of the oven. So that's our go-to Christmas treat, probably my all-time fave. So yeah, that's my number one on the Christmas sweet treats list right there. What's yours?
Listen, super respectful, and I'm gonna give a runner up real quick. Before I share my number one, the only reason this is a runner up is because it is not a solid food; it's a drink, but it is a sweet treat, and that's hot cocoa. You can't beat hot cocoa. Homemade hot cocoa somehow gets better, but I just recently got my own little Keurig machine. I got my sampler cups of all sorts of hot cocoa. You got peppermint. You got freaking Charleston Chew. You got salted caramel. You have all sorts, and it's been delectable. But to round us out, I'm
Wait,
gonna
wait, wait,
finish.
wait. Wait, so you said you recently got a Keurig, so did you also get a boyfriend?
Nope, I just got delicious hot cocoa spewing from the fountain.
Yeah, okay.
Anyways, so I will say for the last one, I think that this is classic. When I think back on my childhood, I remember going for these as they're in the little candy bowls. That's those Ghirardelli or Ghirardelli squares. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, those are
And you
dang
know,
good.
You
for
had the
sure.
different colors on the borders that showed you what it was, and that one by far the best one is the caramel, followed by the mint. The caramel one though just is too good. Definitely a top tier candy. That should be in everyone's top five at least, but for me, it's number one.
Yeah, and I just want to throw out a dishonorable mention, and that's butter cookies. Those things that come in tins, those are horrible. There's a reason that you don't ever eat them the rest of the year. I mean, there's arguments made like about Thanksgiving dinner, but like specifically butter cookies and fruitcake. Like if those were even a little bit good, people would eat them more than one day a year, but no
Is
one
it?
likes that crap. So I don't know
Is
why
it?
anyone buys it. So butter cookies, if they're on the top of your guys' list, you need to tweet at me right now, and we're gonna argue because butter cookies are horrible. I don't even know anyone that likes butter cookies. So
Is
if you
it
do,
butter
let
cookies
us know.
or is it butter cookies or shortbread cookies that come in the tin where you end up
They're
storing all the sewing
yeah, they
material?
come in the tins, the Christmas tins. I've always called them butter cookies. I guess some people call them shortbread, but they're
Okay,
horrible.
so
So
here's the thing:
terrible.
when your packaging is more famously known for holding sewing supplies, you know you're doing something
Yeah,
wrong than
exactly,
cookies. So
exactly.
yeah, I mean we can just knock that off the list. Another honorable mention I want to throw out there: zebra popcorn or any sort of popcorn that's similar to it. That stuff's like crack. You put that in front of me, the bag is gone the next day, no problem. So another honorable mention, but hey, listen, we're on a sports podcast, so we're gonna actually get to it now. We just want to mix things up with this holiday season and bring you guys some cheer, maybe get you guys some good ideas with crinkle cookie variations and stuff. So without further ado, we are hopping on over to this week's NFL games. So Thursday night football. Kayana, how do you feel about this Jacksonville Jaguar matchup against the New York Giants, who just came off of their loss
So it's not the
to
Giants. I
Miami?
think you
Oh, sorry,
misspoke.
Jets.
It's the Jets.
Jets.
Yeah, Jets. So we got Jags in New York against the Jets. This is a huge game with playoff implications. So the Jags right now are one game back of Tennessee, but as long as they win out, they'll win the division. The Jets just fell out of the playoffs because they lost this last week, so they have to kind of win out to keep the pressure on the Chargers and the Patriots as well. They trying to sneak in there for a wild card spot. So huge game. Uh, Probably the most important Thursday night game for sure of the year. And so I'm definitely looking forward to it. Mike White's still out. Zach Wilson, I think Zach Wilson, I'm not a fan of his. Like, I really don't like Zach Wilson at all for secular reasons outside of football. But I don't like Zach Wilson. And yet, I still have to say, I didn't think he played horrible last week. He didn't play great, but he didn't play horrible. I thought he had a couple nice throws. I mean, a boneheaded throw or two as well, but a couple nice throws. Trevor Lawrence, I've loved Trevor Lawrence since he came out of high school. He's a good guy. He's always seemed like a super good guy. Has never really slipped up. He's quiet, keeps his head down and works. And the Jags have really improved, especially in the back half of this season. Trevor Lawrence has looked awesome. Travis Etienne, arguably their best offensive player, hasn't really done anything the last 3 games, and they're still winning. So I think Trevor Lawrence is going to be able to get it done. They just played a really good Cowboys defense, or what was supposed to be a really good Cowboys defense, and they put 40 on them. So I think that Trevor Lawrence is going to be able to lead his team to another win. I don't think Zach Wilson is going to be able to do enough, even in this cold weather in New York when the Jags are coming up from Florida. I still think the Jags get it done, but I do think it's going to be a pretty good game this Thursday as opposed to the rest of the Thursday games this year. I mean, they've been pretty awful, but yeah, I got the Jags. Really like them. I hope they can get in the playoffs. I think they're a much more exciting team than the Titans in the playoffs, who have looked pretty terrible over the last 3 weeks. So that's my
And
take
super
on the
one
game.
dimensional.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I actually agree with you here. Going with the Jags only because what I saw from the Jets wasn't impressive. When they were not clicking, they were three and out pretty easily. Seemed like the Detroit Lions, who don't necessarily have the greatest defense in the world, they're really sticking it to them in a lot of different series. But they're still able to get those deep bombs. They had like 3 or 4, maybe even more 40-yard passes that just were up for completion, which was absolutely ridiculous. I don't see that really happening in this game. So for that reason, again, I'm giving it to the Jaguars. I think they're more consistent and more of a threat. I think it's going to come down to scoring, but also Jets do have a good defense, so keep that in mind. Who you got
yeah.
as far as fantasy? Anyone from either of these teams?
One sleeper guy I got actually. So the Jets cornerbacks, their outside corners, are the strength of their defense. Sauce Gardner, DJ Reed, obviously awesome cornerbacks, but people are afraid to play receivers for that reason. I don't blame you. However, slot receivers have had success against the Jets all season because they're not being guarded by their top two corners. So I'm looking at Marvin Jones Jr. for the Jaguars. He's had a couple good games already, but he's been mostly miss, meaning like scoring less than 10 points. But I think that he's a sneaky good player to have in fantasy this week. Outside the stars, the Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne, I'm starting him obviously, but Marvin Jones Jr. I'm putting him in a lineup. I've already subbed in him in a couple different leagues. So Marvin Jones Jr., I'm expecting to have a pretty decent game this week for the Jags.
Yeah, and I'll highlight also. I mean, you said it, Travis Etienne. I think that a lot of these teams tend to get worried about the passing game and can direct their attention towards that running game. So I just want to emphasize him in this week. Now we'll move on to the Buffalo Bills versus the Chicago Bears. I don't foresee us spending too much time on this matchup. I got Buffalo. I think Bears can do good stuff. Most recently, they have proven that they can do good stuff. They kind of hung close with the Eagles, but I mean that wasn't the Eagles' best game either. You had some other stuff going on there, but I'm still giving it the Buffalo Bills. I think it could be a high scoring game though, so you could see a lot of people starting in fantasy football for this
I
game.
think it's too cold to be high scoring. It's supposed to be pretty bitter and a lot of snow in Chicago for this game. I do think the Bills win, but I think Chicago keeps it close. I'm not as high on Josh Allen. Like everyone talks about Josh Allen, like he's just this second coming, coming straight out of heaven and playing football, but he hasn't won anything. Like he hasn't even won an AFC Championship game. He hasn't made it to the Super Bowl. He hasn't won an MVP, and he's not going to win
Jared
an MVP
Goff's done
this
more
year.
than him.
Honestly, Jared Goff's been to more Super Bowls. I've been to as many Super Bowls and won as many AFC Championship games as Josh Allen has. So, again, I don't think he's bad. I think he's for sure a top 10 quarterback in the league, but I don't think that he has been able to make the plays that need to be made it in the biggest moments. And I think that like it's actually not good for him that he's playing a bunch of bad teams here to close out the year. I think that'd be more beneficial to him going to the playoffs to play stiffer competition over the last 3 weeks. So I do think they win. I think that Josh Allen has probably a pretty good game for those in fantasy. Of course, you're riding him, but I think the game is going to be closer than most people think. The Buffalo defense isn't as good as people think it is, and Josh Allen, well, he's been excellent. He's not. He's not even the best quarterback. Honestly, he's outside my top two quarterbacks for sure in the league. So yeah, I'm a little low on Josh Allen, but we can move on. We got the next game. Saints at the Cleveland Browns. So two teams that nobody cares about playing each other. Not sure that even anyone's going to watch this game outside of Cleveland. I think tickets were on sale for $7 at an NFL game. So, I mean, $7 for a ticket. The only cheaper sports ticket you could buy is probably WNBA, but that's because they're giving out tickets.
I
So,
think they're paying
yeah,
people to buy those tickets.
yeah, really. I don't expect much. Deshaun Watson has been slowly improving over the last 3 weeks. I think the rest of the season for the Browns is kind of just making sure he gets game reps so that he's more prepared for next season. Um, I think the Browns win, I guess. I think they win a low scoring game against the Saints defense that's good. But again, not really a game anyone cares about, especially this late in the year. No playoff implications at all for these teams. Even though technically the Saints could still win at the NFC South, probably not happening. So, yeah, give me the Browns to win a pretty boring and low scoring game.
Yeah, I'm not really for it. I'm gonna say that Saints win. I watched the Browns game a bit last week, and man, things just looked super off. And it was a mix of a couple things. Deshaun Watson wasn't making the passes that he it's not top tier quarterback material with the passes he was making. And then aside from that, just seems super off. He was expecting a guy to go upfield. The guy broke in as far as his receivers. They're just all not on the same page, and that's very bad for the team. And I don't see them fixing that until next year. I just think it's too late of a start for them now. This season will help them, but it's only going to help them prepare. They don't have any postseason dreams here, in my opinion. Now we'll head on over to we got Houston Texans at Tennessee. Again, one of these games that I don't know if you really want to watch it. Tennessee's very one dimensional. I got Tennessee winning it. They're still in the fight for the playoffs. Don't think they're super entertaining to watch, but um, it hasn't been the same Tennessee team that we've seen. They started off kind of slow, and when I say they, I'm mainly talking about Derrick Henry and his fantasy implications. In the first couple weeks, he started off slow, came out hot for the next 3, 4 ish weeks, and then has been kind of cooled off a little bit over the last couple weeks. Um, so I still want to play him because again they're fighting for a good spot, but I'm just not impressed with this Tennessee offense.
So Derrick Henry's a must play. I think actually I'm gonna go counterculture. I'm taking the Houston Texans. Yeah, the Houston Texans I think will win this game, but I think Derrick Henry has a really good game. Houston's got the worst rush defense in the league. Derrick Henry's one of the best after contact runners in the NFL, obviously, and with Malik Willis drawing the start because Ryan Tannehill's out for the season, I think that it's just more reason to run the ball. And since Malik Willis he's got a more diversified skill set than Ryan Tannehill, meaning that he can run the ball better than Tannehill. I think that actually opens up more lanes for Derrick Henry. So I expect Henry to have a pretty good game. He's going to carry a lot of fantasy teams this week in the semis. But I think the Texans actually get it done. They had 2 weeks in a row playing good teams, Dallas and then Kansas City last week, where they barely lost. They kept it close. They went to overtime with the Chiefs. So I think that they actually pull off the upset. They end up beating the Titans, and the Jaguars beat the Jets. Jaguars jump the Titans for first place in that division.
Nice. All right, we'll move on. We got Seattle at Kansas City. Speaking of one of those teams that we just hit, what do you think of both these teams? Who do you think is going to win?
I think Kansas City wins. And I say that hesitantly because they haven't looked great. So I think that the Kansas City Chiefs over the last 3 years have had kind of the NBA mentality where it's like, hey, we know we're good enough to win a Super Bowl, so let's just get to the stinking playoffs. Like we don't even care about the regular season that much as long as we get into the playoffs. And the Chiefs kind of had that mindset. It seems like the last three-ish years. So there's a lot of games that are trap games for them because everyone wants to play their best against the Chiefs because the Chiefs are obviously one of the best teams in the league. But the Chiefs don't really get up for it mentally against a lot of these bad teams. So I think Seattle, well, a good story, a good feel good story throughout the year, especially for Geno Smith. Their team's not that great. Kenneth Walker is trending towards not playing this week again, and I just don't really know what they're going to do. I think the Chiefs defense has been kind of bad the last 2 weeks. They got a lot of guys coming back from injury still. So I think that the wide receivers in Seattle, Lockett and McCaff, will have success. But yeah, I think that the Chiefs, I like the Chiefs, and I obviously like a lot of what they do. I just think that they kind of make mental errors because they don't care about the regular season. So I think the Chiefs win, but it's going to be a lot closer than people think.
Yeah, and I'm gonna agree with you here. I think it's gonna be a close-ish game. I still give it the Chiefs more confidently than it sounds like you're speaking to it. But one other thing I want to take into account, and this is probably more of a personal vendetta. I kind of hate Pete Carroll, but I think Andy Reid's an absolute. I think Andy Reid's an absolute boss. So that's just another thing to factor in. I don't think Pete Carroll's necessarily a bad coach, but I don't think he's on the same scale as Andy Reid is.
Hey, I got something to say about Andy Reid. So I like Andy Reid, and it's nothing about him in this sense. But I was playing Madden the other day, and I noticed that they had a shot cut over to Andy Reid. Andy Reid looked in the game like he's 200 pounds lighter than he is in real life. So I don't know how much money he had to pay Madden to make him
You
look
know what they
skinny,
say,
but
man. You know what they say. The camera it takes off 1,000 pounds.
yeah, I don't think so. I think it's supposed to work the other way, man. But yeah, I think Madden did a lot of favors for Andy Reid there, and I don't know why. I'm not speculating on anything. I'm just saying Madden did a lot of favors for Big Andy. Love him.
Yeah, he's definitely the
Shout out
human.
Andy Reid. Oh, nothing but love, my man. But
Yeah,
yeah,
again,
I
I
think they
love
did
him,
some
but he's
favors.
definitely the human version of a walrus, if you ask me. But that's beside the point. So we'll move on to the next game. We got New York. Now we have the Giants, and they are at Minnesota playing the Vikings. What do you think of this game?
So I think the Giants got lucky last week against Washington. Horrible calls, obviously a lot of controversy at the end of the game. No pass interference call on Curtis Samuel in the end zone, and the Terry McLaurin play where they took him back 5 yards when Bijan Robinson scored. A lot of controversy there that gave the Giants the win. Honestly, Giants haven't looked good since starting off 7-1 or 6-1, I think it was. They haven't looked very good since then. I don't think that the Giants win this game because they're not a great team. That's honestly as simple as that. They're not a great team. They don't have a lot of receiving weapons. I think that Minnesota kind of lights their defense up. Justin Jefferson is chasing a record, and I think that Kirk Cousins is going to. Honestly, I think he's consciously making efforts to try to get him there. I think that the Vikings kind of have the opposite mentality of the Chiefs, where like they're trying to prove it to everyone every game because people doubt us, and it's like, hey man, like playoffs is what matters. So if you guys get done in the playoffs, great. But they're making every single regular season game like the Super Bowl. So yeah, I think that Minnesota wins, and I think they win by 10 plus points here.
Solid, and crazy comeback from last season. And man, the memes about Matt Ryan just blowing giant leads. It's hilarious. I like Matt Ryan, so I feel kind of bad. But I mean, you can't blow a lead like that. No team, everyone on the coaching staff should be fired. All their starters should be subbed out. Like that's just ridiculous. Anyways, I'm also going to give it to the Minnesota Vikings. I do think they have a good team. I don't think they play as strong. So I think that it's actually opposite scenarios, right? I think the Vikings are better than some might think as far as their team makeup is. Switch over to the other side where you have the Giants. I think that their record shows them being phenomenal, and they're not that great. I am actually happy though that they beat the Washington Commanders because looking, I'll get a little bit more to this when we talk about the Lions in a couple games, but I think that the Giants could realistically lose all the rest of their games, and I think that Washington has a better chance at winning in more of these last games, which just gives the Lions more of a chance to not only surpass one of these teams, but possibly even both. But that's beside the point. We'll talk about that more in a little bit. For now, we are going to move on to a game here in New England where we got Cincinnati Bengals versus the New England Patriots.
Yeah, so this is to me this is going to be a classic Bill Belichick trap game. So again, Patriots are fighting for the playoffs. The Bengals are pretty secure. I think they just overtook the Ravens actually for their division lead, but the Bengals essentially have a playoff spot locked up already, whether it's as the division lead or as the wild card. They're already in. The Patriots aren't in yet. They're the first team out of the playoffs right now in the AFC, so they're fighting for a spot. I think that Belichick's going to just take away the pass, and New England's got the coverage men to do it. They have phenomenal corners there, so I think that Belichick's going to scheme up some stuff. They're going to shut down for the most part. I don't know if completely shut down, but they're going to slow down that Bengals passing attack and kind of force them to run the ball. And I think that the Patriots on the flip side are just going to run it straight down Cincinnati's throat. So I think that the Patriots keep it a relatively low scoring game. I'm hitting the under on the betting line. But yeah, I think the Patriots actually sneak out a win here.
Yeah, I'm gonna disagree just because I think that the better team is Cincinnati. I haven't been super impressed. I do think that I don't know. I think that they're a well-rounded but an average team. You know, jack of all trades, master of none. I think that's what New England is. So I'm going to give it to Cincinnati. Their passing game. So first off, their passing game should be way better than it actually is. I mean, any quarterback with those threats would absolutely love it. But I don't know what's been going on and why they can't connect and why they haven't looked as great. Because I mean, I think Tyler Boyd's good. I think T. Higgins is good. Everyone knows Jamar Chase is good. I know there's obviously been injuries within that mix, but I think that it hasn't been utilized to its full potential. We haven't seen what that receiving core is fully capable of, and it's not a bad quarterback either.
I think that Joe Burrow's biggest advantage is they're playing this game pretty close to. Actually, is the game? I think it's on Christmas. Yeah, it's on Sunday. So it's on Christmas. No, it's on Saturday. It's a Saturday game, so it's the Christmas Eve, right? But I think that the biggest advantage for him is playing this close to Christmas, and he looks exactly like Macaulay Culkin from Home Alone. So, like, it's just his season. So maybe he
You
has a great game.
you know there's going to be some traps set up on that field, man.
Yeah, I don't know. So maybe he has a great game, but I actually, like I said, I'm taking the Patriots as an upset pick over Cincinnati this week.
All right, so now we are going to move on to one that is personal and dear to both of us. We have my Detroit Lions going over to Carolina, and they are playing Panthers. But before we speak to this game, we had a gentleman's wager last week that concerned the Lions playing the New York Jets. And in our betting fashion, I feel like you have to owe a reward here.
Thought I just had to send you some treat.
Oh, I mean, there was a candy bar too, but you also had to admit, like, this is speaking for you. I was wrong. You were right.
You were wrong.
Oh,
I was right. There you go.
don't
You
even
were
give me
wrong.
that
I was
crap.
right. just like you said.
leading our fans astray. Anyways, yes, Lions, they won it. It was not a
Oh,
pretty
hey,
game on
actually, no,
either
I don't.
side of the ball.
Wait, real quick. Let's go back to that because I'm a man of my
Zach
word.
Wilson, I know.
Yeah, I'm a man of my word, but I said if Mike White starts, I had a huge qualifier that I said if Zach Wilson starts, throw it all out the window. So yeah, I don't owe anyone anything. So no.
Anyways, we'll get to the game. It was really exciting seeing the Lions win because that just settles in more that they have a chance at the playoffs. I think it's sitting at about 40% odds that they make it. I don't know where they'd really come up with that number because I think that they are a little bit above that. But I mean, it was a trash game to watch, but the Lions were able to hold on, which is one of their biggest downfalls. All last season, they could get up on a team come third quarter, worst quarter every single time, where they're just blowing leads. They're letting the team score 20 points where they couldn't even come back. So it was nice to see them hold on to the lead and be able to kind of hold off and not lose on a last second field goal as well, as most Lions, like myself, Lions fans have really been heartbroken about, especially last year with the Ravens kicking uh, enormous field goal that tied NFL records. So with this game, I got the Lions over Carolina Panthers. Panthers are somewhat fighting for a playoff spot, but I don't think they have the same. I don't know. I don't think they have the same drive with where they're currently at. I don't think they have the same
So they,
connection
I'll
or
just
anything
say
else.
they do. They actually are in a playoff spot wise, considered just playoffs. They're in a better position than the Lions are right now because they control their own destiny entirely. So if Carolina just wins their next 3 games, they'll win their division. Just period. If they win their next 3 games, doesn't matter what anyone else does. They win their next 3 games, they'll win their division to make the playoffs. Detroit needs a little bit of help. They need a one or at least one team in front of them to lose at least one of their next 3. So if that's if the Lions win out. Which getting to the predictions, huge Panthers fan. I've watched every single game this year. I always watch all their games. That being said, I don't have a lot of hope for them in this matchup against the Lions because their strengths are are the Lions are able to shut down. So the Lions' run defense has been elite over the last 6 weeks, and that's how Carolina has been able to win games this year is running the ball. Last week against Pittsburgh, they weren't able to do that, and they had to throw, and it didn't work, and they lost to a bad Pittsburgh team. And on top of that, we flip it over. Carolina's defensive, their weakness, their biggest weakness is when teams just say, "Hey, F it, we're just going to throw the ball all over the place." And that's all the Lions seem to do. They throw, get down into the goal line and run it with Jamal Williams. So I think that J.C. Horn is honestly not talked about enough. Cornerbacks, he's one of the top, in my honest opinion, he's one of the top 3 cornerbacks in the league right now, and the numbers speak to that. But he's the only one. Keith Taylor Jr. got sunned last week, for lack of a better term. He got absolutely sunned by George Pickens and Deontay Johnson. Didn't matter who he's guarding. He wasn't guarding anyone. So even if C.J. Henderson's back, I still think the Lions carve him up through the air. I just don't think Carolina's got the quarterback to be able to keep up or the play calling. Ben McAdoo is the worst offensive coordinator in the league. Steve Wilkes is one of the most conservative coaches in the league. So not a good combination when you need to throw the ball to win.
Yep. So I got Lions winning this. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think the Carolina Panthers are a high scoring offense, and I kind of know
No,
that the Lions. Yeah, I know that the Lions more times than not are a high scoring offense this season. So just off that alone, I think that the Lions will just outscore them. It might not be the prettiest play. They might give up points both sides, but I think the Lions take away with that. Going along with what you've been saying, the D line, they've been looking phenomenal. They've had Houston, who's been making an appearance in the second half of the season, who's been setting some decent decent strides there in Detroit. So I'm gonna give it to Detroit. As you mentioned, actually, I'll even go back to last week. You're kind of dogging on Jared Goff. I think he did a lot better, but I also think he had some work on points.
no,
No,
no.
hear me out. Hear me out first. Hear me out, because he had a lot of balls hitting the feet of his receivers in the first half of the game, but he was able to bring it together and hit some good targets. I do think that there's a lot of room for improvement, but I don't think he looked as bad as he has in past couple seasons. And he is still able to riddle every single one of his receivers, which has been really good because you can't just defend only one person.
Look, Jared Goff honestly was not good last week. They got kind of lucky because the Jets had one defensive breakdown the whole game, and it was right there. Then on a fourth down play, tight end scores a 60-yard touchdown. So fluke play, take that
Joe
away.
Ben Johnson with the offensive
Yeah,
coordinator.
and honestly, that's good for them. Like I'm not dogging that at all, but what I'm saying is Jared Goff wasn't great last week, just like I said he wouldn't be because he was playing outside cold weather. And guess what? Even though this game's in North Carolina, which isn't known as a cold weather state, it's going to be, as of right now, the forecast. It's going to be the coldest football game in Carolina history. Like at Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte, the coldest in history. Wind chills pushing it down to the single digits. So again, I think Jared Goff. I still do think the Lions end up winning, but I don't think Jared Goff's going to put up 40 on the Panthers. I just think Carolina is not going to be able to score, and so they're going to lose. That's what I think is going to happen. So
Yeah, if we're being honest, the only other thing I would have corrected from last game for the Lions is they should have passed it to Panay Sewell for the game winner touchdown. But aside from that, let's get on and quickly cover Tom Brady. What are your thoughts? There's been talk. Should he go into retirement now that he's cut the excess fat? Should he keep going or what?
I don't know if I'd call Giselle excess fat,
Quite the opposite,
or
but
his kids for that matter excess fat.
okay, that one you might be wrong in, but
Um,
I don't know.
I actually don't think Tom Brady should retire. If you asked me before he got divorced, 100% I would have said, dude, just retire, go be with your
Yep,
family. But he's
family
already
first.
shown that he prioritizes football over his family. So, dude, you might as well ride it until you can't play anymore. And I'm being serious. Like, you have you have chosen to give up your family for football, so you better play football as long as you possibly can. And I'm being serious. That being said, I don't think he's going to be in Tampa Bay next year. I
Nope,
think
I
that
agree.
this season hasn't gone the way that he was hoping it would. Although Gronk just tweeted out and said, "I'm getting kind of bored," so hinting that he might come back and play for the playoffs. So, I mean, all bets off table if Gronk comes back and plays in Tampa with him. But yeah, I think that the teams I'm looking at, I don't believe this return to New England stuff. I just don't see it happening. I'm sorry. I
No,
think that's over. But I could definitely see him going to the Raiders if they choose to move on from Derek Carr. I don't think that'd be a wise decision, by the way, like for the Raiders. But I could see that happening, or the San Francisco deal if Kyle Shanahan doesn't think that Trey Lance is going to be ready or isn't good enough. I could totally see Tom Brady going back home to California playing for the Niners. But yeah, I think he should come back. And as of right now, I do think he will come back and play next year. He's not talked about retirement at all. So no reason for me to believe that he's going to hang it up until he tells me that he's going to hang it up. And even then, he did that and then said, "Hey, 3 weeks of my family's too much. I'm coming back to football." So
no. So yeah, I agree with you somewhat because of what you just said. As far as he's already given up some other stuff for football, and it's like, what? Why would you quit? I mean, I know he has a TV deal lined up, but it's not. It's just post retirement. So I mean, that can be put on hold for however long he wants. But let me speak to his numbers real quick too. Okay, his QB rating is not super hot at 89.1 this year,
it's
but
fine.
I mean,
It's
he's
fine.
had yeah, it's fine. But in 2013, it was worse. In 2019, he ended worse than that. So I mean, he's had years where he's had down years. He's had more completions this year than other years, but granted, he's also had more attempts. So we'll just cut that one out. Yards
Listen,
has not looked yards has not
listen.
looked great, but that
Wait, whoa,
is
whoa,
also
whoa,
due
whoa.
to the receiving core.
No. You're wrong. You're looking at things the wrong way. You need to compare Tom Brady to other quarterbacks playing right now in this exact season. Tom Brady's third in the NFL in passing yardage. Third in the NFL in passing yardage. He's second in interception percentage, if you will, meaning he throws, I think, one interception for every 100 attempts, which is just elite numbers. He's got a good amount of touchdowns. He's not blowing it away, but he's got a good amount of touchdowns. Essentially, no picks, and he's third in the league in passing yards, and that's with no offensive line. So numbers wise,
and
he's right there. Like honestly,
and
he's an elite quarterback by the numbers this year.
he has 20 touchdowns to 7 interceptions, which I'll take that so far. And sacks, I mean, he can at least somewhat evade sacks. He's got
Oh no,
obviously good.
wrong. No, wrong. He can't evade anything, dude.
I'm not talking. So I'm talking pocket presence evade. Step up into
Okay,
the
sure.
pocket. step
Sure.
out. I'm not talking Lamar Jackson, let's go on my feet over the right and throw a 60-yard bomb. No, not at all. But all I'm saying is that his sacks don't necessarily look bad. So I was comparing him to himself in past years, just because if your argument is, oh, he hasn't been posted up this number or his QB rating's low, look at his past years. If he would have retired back then, he would have been 2 or 3 rings short of where he is now.
No,
So I think give it a
but
couple
again,
more
I
seasons and
don't
see where
I
it's going.
don't actually care about Tom Brady's past numbers, and I know that you're making the same point that I am, that he should come back. But again, it doesn't matter what his past numbers are because the league's totally different. So you need to compare him to people today, and
No, I
he's
agree.
honestly probably a top five quarterback still with zero offensive line this year and no motivation. So
And the fact
yeah,
that he
I think he's looking for a change of scenery, and that uh, if he can find the change of scenery, then he'll play next year. But if he's forced to stay in Tampa, I don't know that he stays. I'll just say it like
You
that.
know, I'll also say that I'm impressed at his durability, dare I say, because I mean, you have a lot of these younger quarterbacks like Trey Lance or like some of these other guys who have gotten hurt, and he's still trucking along, man. After however many years in the league, he's still just trucking along. So I mean, give credit where credit's due, right? But that will wrap us up. Kayana, do you have any final words for us before we close out this podcast?
No, just check. Hey, honestly though, I do have some final words. You need to tell me if you like butter cookies in the stupid tin, because that's all I want. I want to know. I want to know if there's a single person in the whole world that actually likes those butter cookies. So let me know, or fruitcake for that matter. I don't know anyone in the whole world that likes fruitcake or butter cookies. I just see those filling up the trash. So let me know if you actually like that garbage.
No, man. The only reason you buy butter cookies is for the tin. The only reason why you buy fruit cake is because it's a paperweight. Like that's all there is to it. Cut and dry. You don't eat them. You use them for something else. I will leave off with saying follow us on Instagram, on Twitter. Give us your questions. We would love to start streaming and answering questions just about football and sports, generally speaking. But in order for that to happen, we need some more interaction. Once we start getting that and fueling it up, we'll be fine streaming. And hey, if you have a specific game you want to see us play, let us know, and we can for sure do that. We've just picked up Overwatch, so for those of you who like Overwatch, Kayana's a scrub on it because he's a rookie. He's getting used to it, trying to figure out who his player is. But like, comment, subscribe, follow us, and again, if we're leading you astray, let us know, and we will cash out.
Yep, and everybody, we want to shout out our first sponsor that we got. It's Howoli Home Bakery in Southern Maryland. They bake, bread, star bread, and sourdough are their specialties. They also make cookies and stuff. So if you're in Southern Maryland or anywhere in the DC area, look them up online. Again, that's Howoli, Hau apostrophe Oli Home Bakery. Shout out our big sponsor. We love you guys. You make the best sourdough. You make the best star bread. You make the best cookies in the world. So hit them up, see what they got. Use promo code HMO Sports for a 10% discount.
All right, with that, we're logging off. We will catch you later this week on HMO Sports. When in doubt, hear me out.